The TUV gathers in Cookstown this weekend for its third annual conference. There's so much to celebrate. Jim Allister is with me. Welcome to the programme. After a promising start in the two by-elections, you then had a big performance in the European elections and then total collapse in the Westminster election. I mean, you're a busted flush now, aren't you?
No, I don't think so. Certainly we had a disappointing Westminster election, but the party has remained very vibrant and enthusiastic and determined to go forward into the Assembly elections, which I think are an entirely different game, where it's a PR election. And an entirely different game in circumstances where with every day that passes, people more and more see that the Stormont that we have is broken, the system of government we have is broken, it's not delivering, it's marred in total deadlock, and people are looking not to go back to more of the same. And every other party that will stand in May is offering, let's do more of the same. More deadlock, more chaos, whereas we are saying there has to be fundamental change to this system of a positive nature.
4% of the popular vote in May. No one's listening.
Yes, but, well, we'll see who's listening, but in May people are going to have to address the question, are they satisfied with the malfunctioning deadlock of Stormont, with the ruination brought to education, with the daily diet of conflict?
This is no different from your platform of May 2010.
But now we're electing an assembly where one can make a difference. I don't think there's anyone could say that Stormont is working. My goodness, they had their own survey and 80% of the people said it isn't working. So it needs to change. Now, we're the only party that are saying, well, how does it need to change? It needs to change by addressing the fact that government will never work so long as those in government are not required to share a common vision or a common purpose in the manner in which they govern. And that is because, of course, of the foolishness of mandatory coalition, which as of right puts parties in government and throws up the bizarre situation on the 5th of May next year that voters in Scotland, voters in Wales and voters in Northern Ireland will go to the polls to elect a regional government, and the only place where people will not be allowed the fundamental right to vote a party out of government to pass judgment on failure is Northern Ireland. Now, unless until that changes,
this drum since you started,
it's still a valid drum.
And you got 3.9% of the vote. No one believes that your analysis is the correct one. Well, very few people do.
I haven't met anyone yet who says to me it's right that in a democracy you shouldn't be allowed to vote a party.
No, but maybe they're saying, well, but it's the best deal we were going to get.
You shouldn't be allowed to have an opposition. This is the best deal.
The DUP want voluntary coalition.
Oh no, the DUP are the operators of mandatory coalition.
They say in their election material they want voluntary coalition.
But by their actions they demonstrate that they are very happy operators of mandatory coalition because, of course, the vested interest is that no matter how you do an election, you're guaranteed to be in government, and political parties selfishly enjoy that. I'm saying that people must be given the right to choose their government, the right to reject parties which have failed, the right to move on from the bad old days of deadlock and Stormont.
You see, your opponents think that you're the one that's harking back to the bad old days of division. You represent the divisions of the past, they say.
I certainly don't. I want to take Northern Ireland forward positively. I want to get a situation where we have a government that can work, a government which is united on a common cause, a government that can be cross-community, but which won't be deadlocked on what to do about education and housing and everything else, because before you form a government, no party being big enough to form a government on their own, all parties negotiate. Those that can agree what to do about education, about roads, about health, about all those issues, govern if they can command the requisite majority. Those who don't form the opposition, and that's how you check and balance and keep government going, as we do at Westminster, as we do in Scotland.
And you would be happy to be in opposition in a government in which Sinn Féin was the party of government?
Yes, TV would not be going into government with Sinn Féin because we have nothing in common with them. If they can persuade others to bring them into government and they with the others can command the requisite majority, then yes, we would be the opposition. But let me make this point. If Sinn Féin are only Democrats, so long as they are in government, then they're not Democrats at all. And if this system is built in order to placate Sinn Féin and to keep them from taking us back to the bad old days, because if we don't keep them in government, they would, then that is a telling commentary on...
You're the only one saying that,
That's a telling commentary on their probity and their stance on democracy.
You're the only one saying that. Let me look at your five-point plan.
Let them say Are they prepared to be Democrats? And if they can't put together a coalition with others, serve in opposition? I've never heard them say they are.
Let's look at your 5-point plan for this conference. You want voluntary coalition, the DUP you want that. You want prudent fiscal management, the DUP want that. You want to refocus Stormont on a long-term strategy away from the public sector, the DUP want that. You want to fix education, the DUP want to do that. And you want to guarantee security and economic growth. That could be a DUP manifesto.
Except the DUP in government has done precisely the opposite. They've given us mandatory, not voluntary coalition.
Well, they didn't give it to you. They went into the system that was set up.
Without them, it wouldn't be there. So they gave it to us. They gave us the daily deadlock and the diet of conflict and of sectarian mutual vetoes, which mean that one cancels the other out. You can get nothing done. That's why education's in the mess it's in. That's why the fiscal management has gone astray.
Well, it's looking quite good. We're going to have a budget coming forward in a couple of days. Well, it seems like it.
I don't see very many signs of there being a common willingness to agree a budget to manage the pain.
Well, the signs are that there's going to be a draft budget produced in the next couple of weeks.
To Minister Gilding, who seemed to be suggesting the very opposite, but let's see if there is. But, you know, fiscal management lies at the heart of this, and we've had abject and utter waste under this Stormont. We are wasting $500 million per assembly session of 4 years on useless, non-productive north-south bodies. Because of the political optics of them, they have to be kept. We are wasting day and daily in administration. Minister Gilding presides over a rural development programme, which is supposed to be £100 million. She's put £2.5 million out in the ground, and she spent $3 million on bureaucracy. That's the sort of thing that needs to be addressed.
You got what amounts to one assembly quota in the Westminster election. How many seats are you putting your hat on?
Well, I'm not putting my hat. I've never put my hat in any election.
One for you?
No, we're certainly much more ambitious than that. But the people will decide. If the people are happy with what they've got at Stormont, then they'll vote for more of the same. If the people want real, positive, forward-looking change, then they'll vote for the only party offering it, TUV.
Jim Allister, thank you. That's where we leave it this time round. We'll do it again next week at the usual times. I hope you'll join me. Goodbye.